like Devon Conway coming in to be able to replace Tripathi and Deepak Huda. So I understand why Ruturaj is now batting three, but I certainly would have preferred him to be opening from game one, and then they would have had to, if they had to fill a gap, it would have been in the middle order more so than moving Ruturaj out of his favoured position, which is opening. For me, seeing the scores being a bit lower, I'm actually I'm actually thankful because it's going to mean that the bowlers can stay a bit more stay a bit more sane, knowing that last year the scores, the consistently high scores, just yes, the batters were flying high on confidence, but the poor bowlers. I mean, when you've got Mike Hussey as a coach and you've got the experienced batters like MSD, who is one of the best chasers in T20 cricket, and we've seen so many incredible chase that he's been a part of in the past. That knowledge and information around the game.
Teams like Lucknow, Delhi, Gujarat, Hyderabad are bring young players every season and give them chances to replace their skills. But CSK is an exception to this. What is the problem with the CSK giving opportunities to young players? What's your opinion? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, okay, I got that. Look, the one thing that CSK has always done incredibly well is getting the best out of players around them, whether especially more senior players. There's no doubt that when you do have more senior players, you've got more of an understanding of how the players are going to react under pressure and how to be able to manage them. Obviously, being a part of CSK, we did have an older team. Whereas you see other franchises are more skewed the other way, trying to get and unearth the real young talent. And for me, it's the teams that have a blend of both. They have the experienced players, and the core of the team is an experienced team. But then you have some younger players coming in and trying to unearth them as well. And yeah, my time at CSK, you saw someone like Ruturaj Gaikwad be able to come through as a young man. And my last season in 2020, where Ruturaj played a couple of games and did incredibly well. And the franchises, the more they work through it, the more they're going to continue to try and spot that young talent. But as a coach, you sort of know that when you've got more senior players, you've got more of an understanding how they're going to react under pressure. And that's always been CSK's philosophy, because especially in big games, when the pressure is right on, you want the players to be better decision makers. And younger players, a lot of the time, look, they'll do some outrageous things and perform incredibly well, but they're just going to be a little bit more inconsistent. So, I can see, the CSK's philosophy has been pretty successful throughout the years.
Puneet, his question is that if you were part of CSK's think tank this season, what's the one bold move that you would make to keep the CSK legacy alive in the post-Dhoni era?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. It's more for me with what I've seen, and I mentioned this earlier. The thing that I've seen, which I've liked, is they've realised that there's a bit of a weakness when it comes to some of the local Indian batters that they picked up in the auction, and it's taken them a few games to be able to work out that they need to reinforce their top order with an overseas batter they've got like Devon Conway coming in to be able to replace Tripathi and Deepak Huda. So you can see that they've realised that right now with those players, they are not in great form. And they really need to set a really strong foundation, which has always been, one of the keys to CSK's success has been their opening combination, but also their top order. So for me, I really do like the call that they've made. It means they are going to be missing out on that overseas all-round position with Sam Curran and Jamie Overton. So, but I do like the decision they've made. They've had to make a call right now, and I'm sure they'll stick with it now and reap the rewards throughout the back end of the tournament.
Yeah, Niharika?
Hi, Shane. In one of the previous responses you gave to me, you had talked about Devon and Rachin being there as a much more solid combination with Rituraj batting at three. So I just want to ask a follow-up on that. Like, should Ruturaj continue to bat at number 3, or should he be just back to being the opener with Conway? Because Ruturaj Conway combination had been a superb one for CSK winning the IPL in 23. So, what's your take on Ruturaj coming one down now?
Yeah, look, from my perspective, I would absolutely prefer Ruturaj to open, and from game one, that is where he's at. He loves opening. He scored his most runs opening batting. He's an incredibly good opener because he's got the technical skill to be able to manage a brand new ball swinging around, but then his ability to be able to then bat through an innings and score very quickly is something very special. So I I honestly would have preferred Ruturaj to open the batting from game one. But because they've gone down the route of Rachin Ravindra opening and then having Ruturaj batting at number 3, they seem like they've had to now hedge their bets and go all in with Devon Conway opening with Rachin Ravindra and Ruturaj batting at number 3 to be able to fill that sort of gap they've got with the local Indian batter not performing how they'd like. So, look, I understand why Ruturaj is now batting 3, but I certainly would have preferred him to be opening from game one, and then they would have had to, if they had to fill a gap, it would have been in the middle order more so than moving Ruturaj out of his favoured position, which is opening. You know, he scored majority of his runs there. He scored all his hundreds batting as an opener. So I'm not sure how they're going to be able to make that move now, but I would have loved to have seen that from game one.
Bala, please go ahead with your question.
Hi, Shane. Uh, you have spoke so much about CSK, but considering how they have played recently, do you think there is a chance for them to qualify for playoffs? If they want to qualify, what is one thing they have to do? And another question is, you might have heard about the Dhoni's performance lately and thoughts about his retirement. What are your thoughts?
Okay. First of all, look, you never write off CSK, and I certainly never write off CSK because of just they know how to win. They know how to be able to rally together. Whether that's Stephen Fleming, whether that's MSD, and the franchise in general, they know how to come together and turn things around. For me, where things will turn around as a starting point will be their top order. Their top order making it easier for their middle to lower order to be able to come in and then finish things off. And because of the decision they've made with 2 overseas openers and then Ruturaj batting at 3, I really do like that now with the situation, knowing the other players they've got available to be able to bat in their squad. So for me, I think giving them a few games to be able to really find their feet, that's where they're going to turn things around. And then it means that there's not as much pressure and not as much importance on MSD having to come in the 11th over, for example. So, and look, when it comes to MSD, look, honestly, it's still an absolute treat to be able to be at a ground when MSD is playing. He's still keeping incredibly well. The last game didn't go exactly to plan. He certainly, but previously when he came out for the balls that he faced, you can see he's still batting incredibly well. The shots that he played, the sixes, the boundaries that he hit shows that he's still batting incredibly well. So for me, don't be surprised, knowing the all-round package that you've got with MSD, with him keeping incredibly well, and he's batting very nicely. Don't be surprised if he comes out and really, when the time's right, when the top order does their thing, and MSD is able to come in and just close out an innings or close out a game with 2 or 3 overs to go. That's now his role within the team that he's been doing very well, and that's the role that the other batters have got to allow MSD just to be able to fill that specific role, which is him at his best right now with what he's got.
We'll take one final question. Sarup, do you want to ask your question, please?
Hello, Shane. Good day to you. We are now more than 20 matches into the season. Are you surprised by some of the scores the teams have posted compared to last year? And is potentially the removal of the ban on saliva taking effect?
The ban of saliva taking effect.
Okay. For me, seeing the scores being a bit lower, I'm actually thankful because it's going to mean that the bowlers can stay a bit more sane, knowing that last year the scores, the consistently high scores, just yes, the batters were flying high in confidence, but the poor bowlers, there have been a lot of long conversations, a lot of sleepless nights for some of these bowlers because it was just so difficult to be able to find a way to be able to put the brakes on a game. So look, I'm glad that things have sort of come back to a bit more parity where it's just not, scores of 250 happening regularly or around about that. Because you never really want to see, that being so one-sided to the batting throughout the tournament. So I'm glad that the pitches have sort of produced a little bit more a quality of cricket, and it's still been great cricket that's been on display. When it comes to the saliva on the ball, look, I'm not sure why that was changed in the first place. I understand that the core reason behind it was the umpires feeling that there might have been some other things apart from saliva going on the ball. But in the end, reverse swing plays a big part. Conventional reverse swing, when the ball gets a bit older and just shining up one side of the ball, does give the bowlers that little bit of extra room for error at the back end of an innings. And that's where you saw last night with Siraj, the reverse swing that he got. It just means you don't have to bowl the perfect Yorker to still be really effective. So thank gosh that common sense prevailed and they've allowed to bring back one of the important skills from a bowling perspective, just to give the bowlers a bit more of a chance in the back end of an innings when these world-class power hitters are going hard. So I'm glad that things have sort of have turned around. The right decisions were made to be able to ensure that there's a bit more equality between bat and ball and reverse swing in the back end of an innings, the back end of a game certainly provides a bit more equality there.
Well, I'll just wrap with one last question from my side. CSK have lost the last 3 games chasing, and there's also the stat floating around that they haven't really chased 180, or they haven't chased 180 in the last 10 attempts since 2020. So, what, in your opinion, is the reason for it, and what's a possible solution to fix this issue?
Yeah, I'm very surprised at that stat, just knowing that the CSK have had a couple of incredible years as well. So to be able to see they haven't chased down over 180 since 2020, the year that I finished playing up, is surprising. But that just comes down to the individuals assessing the conditions, assessing the situation, and then executing more consistently at their best, and not allowing the situation really to be able to be overawed by that situation. And look, when you've got Stephen Fleming, when you've got Mike Hussey as a coach, and you've got the experienced batters like MSD, who is one of the best chasers in T20 cricket, and we've seen so many incredible chases that he's been a part of in the past. That knowledge and information around the game, once they sort of just crack that 180 chase, then don't be surprised if the floodgates do open, because it really is it's an execution. It's just an assessment of conditions and the situation. And once they find their feet again, then don't be surprised if things consistently get chased down.
And maybe another solution is you open for them. Like you said, since a year you retired, that's when this started, so you could get back to open for CSK.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for joining. Shane, thank you for your time for doing this, and we'll catch you on another media day. Have a great evening ahead.